everybody, and welcome to Indianapolis for the GMR Grand Prix. It's Friday and it's time for free practice number 2 to get underway ahead of qualifying later on tonight at 9 p.m. There is so much action to look forward to. There's so much drama as well. We saw this morning in free practice number 1 how difficult the track conditions can be, how sliding everybody was around. But it is time to get going, and it is time to welcome the IndyCar Radio Network to take you through the second session as well. Drivers are ready. Everybody is gearing up. We're ready to go. Green light is on. We are underway. Let's hand over to the IndyCar Radio Network for practice 2.
Live from the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this is the NTT IndyCar Series. With complete coverage of today's practice, this is the IndyCar Radio Network.
Mark James, Davey Hamilton, one final tune-up before we go qualifying a little bit later on today in preparation for this weekend's GMR Grand Prix. And Davey Hamilton, sunshine, blue skies, the order of the day earlier. But now some cloud cover moving in. And but this is one of those places that is so heavily impacted by the conditions.
It really is impacted heavily by conditions. Right now, as a racing driver, I love it. It's overcasty. It's dry. It means the air's heavy, engines run good, a lot of downforce. When you're going the other direction on this course, and that would be on the oval, this is kind of a perfect day. This could be track record day, so we'll see how it works in this final practice session for the Indy cars to go out there. Good news is it was supposed to rain all weekend, Mark, but they missed their call, which is good for us because of it's nice and dry. Looks to be dry. It looks to be dry right now when we're on racetrack all weekend, so that's good news.
Our 15-minute practice session earlier today, when all was said and done, Pato O'Ward was P1 with a time of 69.4981. Christian Lundgaard was second quick. Alex Palou, Scott McLaughlin, and Jack Harvey, the top 5. Then Felix Rosenquist, Ericsson, Dixon, Power, and VK, the top 10. Some of those struggling to find speed. Romain Grosjean, 16th quick. Newgarden just in front of him, 15th. Simon Pagenaud, 18th. David Malukas, 19th. Elio Castroneves was 23rd quick.
Yep. And we got some work back there for that Castroneves, don't we? And a few of the guys in the back, Colton Herta, as we talked about, had some issues, had a onboard fire. He'll be back out. We know he's not going to be in that 27th spot. But I think the biggest improvement right now that we look at strong is that Rahal team. Got Lundgaard in second, as you just mentioned. Jack Harvey in that 5th position as well. So looking good there. And then, you get to the bottom of the surprises. Yeah, obviously, the surprises, Castroneves. I have to say that I figured he'd be a little bit farther up. And another one, I'm going to say 19th, David Malukas. He ended the year so strong, had some really good opportunities to potentially win some races, finds himself on top of the podium a lot, but right now, just struggling to find some speed.
All eyes are on Colton Herta in this session. He won't get an opportunity to turn laps on the alternates because he had an issue with an oil line leak, which shortened his session, and basically a couple of install laps, all that was available for Colton Herta earlier today.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate for him, but you know what? This kid's still going to be a favorite to win this race. He's going to be a favorite to put on the pole. He just knows this racetrack. It fits him good. He knows the style. Good news, too. He was able to go in and look at his teammates' telemetry, kind of see where their setups were, just kind of take a gab at it and see which one he wants. But, Mark, don't count him out just because he missed that first session. He's out on track right now. He's laying some laps down, and we'll see what he does at the end of the session, see where he'll be for qualifying.
Well, he spent a lot of time on the pit boxes of his teammates and listening to their interactions with their race strategists and trying to glean whatever he could glean. I mean, former winner here. So, he's comfortable at this racetrack. Matter of fact, 2-time winner in Indy Next, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and we're watching this is a little surprising, too. Andretti car, Kyle Kirkwood, we see they must have a clutch issue. He was up on the jack stands. He popped it into gear, got the tires spinning, and then they dropped the jack. So that tells me that he wasn't able to get it in gear. They did it a second time. Dropped him with the wheel spinning. He got going again, so he is on track, but I expect there's something wrong. As we see that all going on, look down in pit lane, and who's down there but Rocket.
Yep.
Probably didn't like what he's seen right there, talking to Brian Herta and some of that team, saying, hey, what's going on? Don't be dropping your car off the air jacks as it's running.
We're watching that AutoNation car working its way around the racetrack, and one thing's for sure, Davey, while it's not necessarily pronounced, talking about that blue and white trimming and that curbing around the racetrack, we can tell that when a driver gets up on it and maybe he attacks it with a little too much ferocity, it does have some steering input to it. He notices it in the wheel.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, we talked about the curbing around here. Most of the curbing you can go up on. You need to be very careful, though, especially turn 1, turn 7. There's some high curbing that you don't want to touch at all. Majority of the curbing, yeah, it's okay to go ahead and hit that curbing just so slightly because of it's a flat curbing with, you know, the rumble strips, so to speak, and they're indented in the ground, not exposed to high. So it doesn't always help you go fast, but it does cut some corner off, and majority of these that you can't hit, but it can affect you. You got to be careful.
Well, you talk about going fast. One of my favorite places in terms of our camera view, or for those that are spectators, and, you know, sometimes on the back side of the pagoda when I'm, you know, part of the Indy Next broadcast and everything, is when they come off of that infield portion of this north end and they come onto Holman Boulevard down that backstretch. Those cars, I don't think, look any faster anywhere on this track than they do through that switchback. Yeah,
that switchback, it really tells you. And let me tell you, it's hard to do that wide open. Now, these cars do get through their wide open, and you can, but you have to hit it just right. It's just not just to give me to do that, because the rule is you can't go out of bounds. There is past the curbing on driver's left on exit on that long back straightaway. You can't go over that curbing and go out, but that's a penalty. If you go over 2 tires over that curbing, they're gonna penalize you at least during the race or qualifying. So it's not easy to do to get through there flat out, but you can do it. But you're right. That's another. It kind of reminds me of Road America. Then coming off Canada corner, going up through before you get on that final straightaway. There's a really fast area in there as well.
Lundgaard, Rossi, Rahal, McLaughlin, Palou, VK, Herta, Grosjean, DeFrancesco, and Ferrucci, the top 10. Ever-evolving conditions here during this session of the world's greatest race course. Let's get the specifics on that. A pit road from Ryan Marine.
Thank you, Mark. And Davey alluded to it earlier. Overcast certainly describes the cloud situation here right now. That is in contrast to what we saw earlier this morning. Of course, there is the chance of some rain here this afternoon, and it's really got us all kind of on pins and needles waiting to see what's going to happen. I'm sure that's doubly so for these teams up and down the pit lane. It's comfortable, though, out here, Mark. 78 degrees ambient temperature. Track temperature right now around 108 degrees. Certainly good conditions to go out and lay down a quick lap. But the big question is, are these going to be the conditions we see when we go qualifying later this afternoon? That's still very much uncertain at this stage. So the teams will be going through their paces here. The focus of this session will be race running with no access to those red sidewall tires. We had that in practice 1 earlier today. That's where a lot of the qualifying simulation work happened. So a lot of these teams, from talking to them up and down the pit lane, long runs here. That's going to be the focus of the second of these 2 practice sessions here today.
Yeah, the opportunity, Davey, for those qualifying sims were relegated to the first session today because that's when the alternates were at their disposal. But primaries for this session, and you know, you've speculated a time or two that you wouldn't mind seeing a reversal of that.
Yeah, I just think it just makes more sense to do your qualifying sim right before qualifying other than the morning session. And that way you could work on your morning session more for, you know, race simulation, race conditions, work on it, maybe try to figure it out early on and then do a sim qualifying run before qualifying. But hey, it is, you know, they have a reason for it. I'm not sure. It wasn't in the meetings who made that decision, but it still works. It's still just a little more of a challenge. I did notice, I think, that when they put the red, softer compound tires on, it seemed like a little bit of rear grip left those cars. They were getting a little bit sideways. Seems like a lot of front grip in the cars, but not as much rear. So that always takes a little bit of adjustment for these drivers to make sure they get it right for that qualifying run. And what I think we're also going to see, Mark, is some of these cars struggling. I'm going to say like Castro Neves is one of them. I'm going to say like the Foyt cars, maybe even DeFrancesco, Ilott, some of those, and maybe even Lucas may go out with reds and try to use 2 sets of reds the first round of qualifying just to try to transfer into that round of 6, that first round of 6, knowing that they're going to start in the top 12 a minimum. So I expect to see that happening as well.
Ryan Marine.
Brian Herta is calling the strategy for Kyle Kirkwood here this year. At the beginning of this session, Brian, we saw the car up on the jacks with the wheels spinning. Was there something you guys were working through?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a sticky clutch going, so we're just trying to, we can fix it back in the garage, but we're trying to stay out here and get our laps in, get our runs done, get our workload done, get ready to qualify.
How will that affect Kyle here in this practice, if at all?
But if it gets worse, it'll end our session, so hopefully it'll hang on for us here. It's not affecting him on track at all, but obviously, kind of hard to get out. It's hard to get out of these pit boxes with these cars when you got a clutch. When you don't, it's almost impossible.
Assuming everything goes as planned, what is your focus for this session? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, we're still looking for speed. Speed, just working on balance. It's been this is a place we've had really good cars, but it seems like today we're struggling a little more than normal here. So we're trying to just find a balance for Kyle, give him what he needs so we can go out and qualify well.
Is that for Kyle specifically, or is that across the board in the Andretti camp?
Yeah, both.
All right, thank you, Brian. They got some work to do, guys.
A rather charmed existence through the first couple of races for this team, and I don't know what it is about this place, be it here on the road course or certainly on the oval once we get to that. Davey, fate is a fickle thing, and sometimes through no fault of your own, you talk about the issues that they had with the oil line that cut Colton's session short, and now they have clutch problems with Kyle.
Yeah, that's right. So we know they're fast, they're on a roll, but it's these little things like this that keep plaguing that Andretti group. And what it is, I'm not exactly sure, but it seems like it's been a while for a win. They finally get one. It seems they're on track. They have some fast race cars. But like I say, two things right here in this first two sessions between Colton and Kirkwood, as you said, and it's detailed to attention. Now, does that mean they've spent all their time and efforts towards a 500 car and these didn't get the attention they need coming into here? Who knows? But right now, that's the little things that any team needs to fix so they don't have issues going into any weekend.
And what's particularly frustrating is that if it's self-inflicted, you'd like to think that you can fix that. But when it's not, that's doubly frustrating.
So as he said, a clutch issue. I mean, it could be a faulty part. It could be they did everything exactly right. Same with Colton's situation. We don't know what it was. It could be a broken fitting that really, that is a equipment failure, not so much a problem with somebody putting it together wrong. So don't know that behind the scenes. They know that more than us. And we tell you, that team's they're smart. They know if there's problems and that it was related to the crew that they're going to get that fixed.
So now, how many times did you see this in your career? People need to understand when that car is back in gasoline out, from the front nose wing all the way to the rear wing, they go over every aspect of that car with a fine-tooth comb. They fire it up, they check for leaks, make sure fittings are tight, all of those things. And literally there's a checklist that they all go through. And how many times do you roll it out to pit road and something like this happens and the novice might say, well, did you guys not check that before?
Good question. That's right. And it's weird how things happen because they do die. I remember back when I was a rookie, came here with AJ, and I watched the guy do all of our half shafts. They're all lined up. He's greasing them. They put so much grease in each one. They're all exact same. I go out and have a half shaft problem. Well, I know they're no different. I know nothing. He did it right. I know they're assembled only one way. They torque the same, the whole thing. Another thing, telemetry is a big thing, right? You do all your telemetry work back there, everything's hooked up. Sometime you get out here, your radio doesn't work, or the driver can't see the telemetry. We do. I mean, it's all technology, and you think that it's all right, but every now and then, man, you got that glitch.
Let's go to pit road and Ryan Marine.
Just following up on it, because Kyle's back here in the pits, and they've got the cowling off of that car, and there are a lot of crew members going to work, and from what I've been told, they're bleeding that clutch. They were concerned there was some air in the line, so they've got some new fluid out. Now there's a Honda technician taking a look at things as well. But, Davey, can you read anything from that based on that little bit of intel I was able to bring along?
Yeah, that's the first thing that you're going to check, Ryan, is bleed that clutch. It's a hydraulic clutch system, no different than your brakes. It's the same fluid. It works the same as a brake does on your car. So when you push the hydraulic portion of it, it engages that clutch. And sometimes heat can get to it. Sometimes air. We've seen earlier that Newgarden had a problem with something like that. I think they came back and bled his clutch. It seemed to work. And that is an issue. I mean, if that fluid boils at any point, it gets a little bit hot, and you need to keep it cycled just no different in your brake fluid. So, yeah, that's what they're going to try to do. If that's not the case, more than likely they're going to have to split the back of that car off, get to that clutch, and replace it.
A lot of well wishes for the month of May for IndyCar Radio from a number of folks throughout the course of this day. A lot of folks checking in from here and there, letting us know they're listening. Among those, a good friend of mine, Kevin Rounds, who's an assistant principal at South Putnam Middle School, which is about 40 miles west of here or so. I'm sure he has the IndyCar Radio minimized on his computer screen in case the principal walks in.
That's what he's supposed to. We'd be disappointed if he doesn't.
A huge fan, and his entire family is. They'll be out here, if not later today, certainly tomorrow. And if you reach me or Davey or IndyCar Radio on various social media outlets, check in with us. Let us know where and how you are listening to us all throughout the course of the month for sure. Felix Rosenquist up to P1. We've talked about his qualifying prowess here. Christian Lundgaard of Dixon, McLaughlin, Jack Harvey, the top 5. Rossi, Pillow, Ray Hall, Newgarden, O'Ward through 10th. Herta, VK, Ilott, DeFrancesco, Kirkwood through 15th. Armstrong, Grosjean, Ferrucci, Daly, Erickson through 20th. And Power, Malukas, Pagano, Canapino, Stingray, Robb 25th. Castro Neves 26th, Benjamin Peterson currently running in 27th. It doesn't matter if it's the primaries or the alternates, that 06 car, Davey, continues to struggle.
Yeah, it really is struggling, isn't it? You look at his teammate, Simon Pagano, not much better in that 60 car. He's 23rd quickest right now, and there's some surprises towards the bottom. Don't know where they are working right now. I see one car jump up, that A.J. Foyt car, Ferrucci, in that 18th position, a little better than we've seen, but you see Grosjean, Power, Malukas, Pagano, Castro Neves, all on the wrong side of our chart, which means 15th to 27th, and so they have a little bit of work to do, but still consistently, let's shout out to Lundgaard and to Harvey. Right now, Lundgaard's in that 2nd position, Harvey's in the 5th in that Ray Hall program. How about Graham in that 8th position? They really seem to have good race cars right now, which they've seemed to struggle earlier this year.
I mean, I'd love to see that race team get up to speed. I mean, Graham is such a tremendous ambassador for the sport, and going back to his days in Indy Next, Davey, Jack Harvey is simply one of the nicest people that I've ever met in my time covering this series, and would dearly love to see that team start to get its go back.
And I appreciate a team, Bobby Rahal and that team, and Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, the new shop they've built, the dedication they have to not just IndyCar but to motorsport. They've given a lot to our sport. They continue to give a lot to our sport and other drivers. Graham, I think great ambassador as well. I really like Graham a lot. He brings a lot to it. He's a good guy. I mean, just a good guy. And as you said, Harvey joining that team and Lundgaard, they really have a good package. So you'd like to see him do well. And you know what? I really like the opportunity that he's given younger drivers to go test the car someday and get behind a wheel of an IndyCar just to see what they have, and not too many teams do that, so they definitely bring a lot to this game.
Well, nobody knows for sure what went on behind the scenes that led to the decision making and the departure of Jack Harvey from Meyer Shank Racing, but I think regardless of how that relationship ended, I would think that Mike Shank would be one of those that would say that he has a deep amount of appreciation and respect for Jack Harvey, because he, along with those guys, helped build that race team into a full-time team here in the series.
And that's a good question, because behind the scenes, everybody seems to be pretty amicable about it. I mean, I heard that Harvey left the team, just thought, hey, I'm going to try a new challenge, but which surprised us all, because we thought they'd be together forever, because they built that team together, as you said, and Shank was committed to Harvey was committed to Shank, and so it was a big surprise. But you never know as a driver, just behind the scenes, what's going on, or as a team. So whatever happened, I all you can hope is, hey, they built that team together. Hopefully they're still good friends, and they're competitors against each other now. But Harvey, felt like this was a better opportunity for him, obviously, or I can't imagine. I can't imagine they broke up, to be honest with you. It still kind of shocks me.
Between this session and the last, Ryan Marine is in danger of being put on the Andretti Autosport payroll with all the time that he's spending in their pit box. Ryan, how about one more update on Kyle Kirkwood?
Well, they did get him back out after bleeding that clutch. Just a couple of minutes after that, they put the cowling back on, the right side pod back on. However, it did take 3 crew members pushing him about 2 pit stalls down pit lane in order to finally get that car in gear and engaged and moving in the direction they wanted to go. The team gave that a big round of applause. So I guess the situation is good enough to at least get him back out on track. But, Davey, by the sound of that, this probably isn't totally resolved. They've got some work to do to get it absolutely fixed before qualifying.
Yeah, it did show that, Ryan. Thanks for covering that, because we did notice that they had to push him out, and much like they did on Newgarden. Newgarden was not successful to get it started, but obviously Jack was successful to get it started, and I'm sorry, Kyle was successful to get it started. So, they got something to fix. There's no question about it. But at least they're on track, making laps.
Our video showing right now a moment in time that Scott Dixon would dearly love to forget.
Yeah, we don't see him make mistakes
covered last year for the 500 and that
the last pit stop.
Speeding on pit road.
His speeding on pit road cost him that race, no question about it. Just showing the emotion of him and the team and wife and
all-time laps leader here.
All
the
time
500 and one win.
And one win, and had that dominated last year.
Well, but I know it's only one win, but it's better than none.
I take that one.
Even if he retires with one win,
that's right. A winner, win's a win. But I guess he'll take that, and he's happy with it. He is. But then if you just look at the other opportunities that he had, we could be talking about him as a 4-time winner, just as we do Elio. Honestly, but last year was a heartbreak. He's won the 500. He's done so much. So it's hard to feel bad for a guy that has so much success, but. You kind of feel bad. That was his day, and he made a mistake, and it was on him.
I bet Mario and Michael don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, bingo. Exactly.
They would sit down and say, let's talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Back to pit road. Let's welcome in Rob Blackman.
Yeah, and Ricardo Juncos is alongside not only a team owner, but working as a strategist for the rookie, Agustin Campino. Agustin really struggled in the morning session. The only one that was slower was Colton Herta, as you well know, who only ran 1 lap. Not a lot of success here in the afternoon session. What's the problem right now?
Well, I think we make a lot of changes for both cars from last year. On top of that, Agustin is learning the track. And the car wasn't that good even for Calum Aylot, so we are making a lot of changes, try to learn. And I think he's adapting. I think it's all good, he's learning, and we also have a different brake system for him, which he didn't like, so we come back to more standard cars. So now he was 2/10 of Calum on the prior set with the same condition tires. So we see now what we can happen on the rest of the session.
So, Davey, when we talk to some of these race strategists in this session, which is essentially, they're we've got a car with a lot of smoke rolling out of the rear of it.
That actually looks like, that's Elio Castroneves, actually. That's the 06 car. Could be a little bit of issue. Maybe there was, some motor, no power there or something, but it's definitely internal of that car. You can always tell when smoke comes out of the exhaust pipe internally, out of the exhaust pipe, not around the engine. So it definitely has some sort of an engine failure in that car. And that, like I said, that could be part of his lack of speed. Just the power may have been down. He's 27th on charts right now, and you can see the smoke as he comes onto pit lane.
He knew something was happening when he exited the road course in the south end just past the museum.
And it's smoke, actually, Mark, out of both sides of the car. The exhaust and turbo wastegates come out of both sides, right and left of the car, and it was definitely coming out both. As we see, Ferrucci shows him a little bit sideways through one of the corners, and we see Elio getting pushed behind the wall right now.
Well, we're crawling up on 130 here rather quickly, Davey, and we go qualifying at 4.
Yeah, which gives them ample time, but if they need to get back there and get after it, right?
Yeah.
There'd be no system checks. It'd be an engine change, no system checks. So that team right now, I promise you, they're loading their stuff up off that pit stand, going to find the car, which he pulled off, which would be our turn 1, but pit in for this particular race on the road course, and they're not far from the garage as Elio's getting out of the car. They're going to go behind in that garage area and start tearing it down.
So as we started to talk about in terms of the strategy and the approach to this particular session, when you hear, the race strategists and the crew and the guys say, well, we're working on long runs here, explain the difference between saying long runs as opposed to qualifying.
Yeah, so long runs, basically you want to fill the car up with fuel, make it full load, and then put some tires on that matches that. We would normally, not per se stickers, but some with a little bit of wear on them, and go as long as you can. and see what it's going to feel like during the race. See how much drop off you get, what the handling's like right now compared to what it is going to challenge it in the race. Now, qualifying, light loads, new sticker tires, the softer red tires for sure, but the race sims are really going right now, and that is make as many laps as you can and just see what your car is going to be like as we see a few of the drivers starting to move up, but right now, Castro Neves is going to end up at 27th for sure. Beans he's out, and his teammate Simon Pagenaud 24th right now. Just something just not right with those cars, and we see some handling characteristics with the other Andretti cars having a few issues, but right now, they just don't seem to have the speed. As a matter of fact, I don't see an Andretti car until where's the first one that we see?
So you heard it at 15.
Colton Herta. Running 15th right now. That's correct.
So Rosenquist, Palou, Lundgaard, Dixon, McLaughlin through 5th. Harvey, Erickson, Rossi, VK, and Power through 10th. Ray Hall 11th. Newgarden 12th. Malukas 13th. Award 14th. 15th Herta. Then Ilott, Robb, DeFrancesco, Kirkwood, and Armstrong. Grosjean 21st. Ferrucci 22nd. Daly 23rd. Pagenaud 24th. Peterson 25th. 26th is Canapino. Elio Castro Neves, his car is behind the wall and headed toward Gasoline Alley. 27th quick in this session. So, as we mentioned, Felix Rosenquist had a fair amount of success here, Davey. A pole sitter here, very, very comfortable at this race.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him get a win. I really would. I mean, I think this year would be a great time. He didn't know if he's even going to be in this ride this year. He's already been on a pole. He's been competitive. He's been towards the front of the field majority of the time. I just think a win for him would really, a good shot in the arm to try to secure maybe some more down the future of what he's going to do. And he needs to be consistently up front and contend for wins all the time. But right now, he really has this place figured out. As I said, Palou, he's another one that's always fast here, P2 right now. But Dixon, and we never count that guy out anywhere. When it comes to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, road course or oval, he's always wanted to be, a contender, and he's in that P4 spot right now.
We spent a couple of years touting Alexander Rossi as a championship favorite. That conversation went away pretty quickly last year.
Yeah.
Especially when he started to become part of the silly season, almost from the time we left St. Petersburg. But when the announcement was made that he was headed to Arrow McLaren, we thought, for instance, that he would immediately be a championship contender, and he started strong at St. Petersburg, but he, too, is looking for a rebound weekend. He's currently 14th in points.
Yeah, and I honestly, right now, if you're in the top 15 in points, I'm not going to count you out for the championship because there's so many races left. We're only 4 races into the season. This would be the 5th one tomorrow, and then the 6th one's the Indy 500. So they're going by fairly fast. So I'm not counting him out, but he needs to change things quickly. That means he needs to get in victory lane. He needs to be up towards the front on a consistent basis. And so he's still in the game, but right now he has a lot to overcome to try to be a points champion.
Yeah, and again, it's an ultra tight points battle. I mean, Marcus Ericsson has 130 points, and you go back to 11th place Callum Ilott. He has 80 points. Lundgaard is just 3 behind him. So literally this race weekend could turn this upside down.
Oh, yeah, that makes it exciting, right? When it's early on and the points are that close together, it mixes up a lot. But here's one thing: when you're the guy in the front, and that's Ericsson going, okay, I'm leading the points right now. I got to keep having good days. But if you have one bad day, and 3 or 4 guys have good days and gets by you, that's one thing. But when you're in Rossi's position and you're in that 14th position, that means there's 13 guys in front of you that need to have a bad day, and that doesn't always happen.
Well, as we said, he checked the box off in terms of winning the Indianapolis 500, and conversations we had with him earlier this year, he said only this to me. He said, I now have a better idea of what it takes to win a championship. What do you think that he was referencing in that?
Well, he's been doing this a long time. He's obviously, the 500 when he got was, he wasn't the toughest guy that day. It was a strategy call. It was a fuel call. So he won that race, and hats off to him, and he's on that Borg Warner trophy, and he won it. But then he's won some races. But I think now he's at the point like, okay, I haven't won a championship. It's a different strategy of going about a championship. You have to be there, risk to reward. So that means, go for those wins. But if you can't win the race, get the best finish you can. Don't put yourself at risk to get a DNF and not finish some of these races. And I think he's looking at a different glass right now of going, okay, I got to be up there every weekend. Win a championship. I haven't done it yet, but to do that, you have to finish all the races. You have to be there at the checker flag at all these, and maybe that's what he's trying to look at doing.
Well, we talk about drivers who push it to the ragged edge, and one of those is certainly Alex Palou, and a couple of times, especially in the north end, Davey, he's carrying so much speed through the corners that not only are the left side going across that blue and white curving, but they're also touching the grass on the outside of that curving.
Isn't that amazing? I seen that same thing, and half his tire was in the grass. Now, one thing, it really wasn't in the grass, it was over the grass, because that curbing's a little taller than the grass right there, but it still means only half your tires getting traction. You know what I mean? It's not in the grass spinning, but man, he's P1 right now. It's probably flirting with a little bit too much disaster right there, but he's trying to get the very most out of that car.
We're watching it right now, and the rear end started to step out, and that time he took the right sides over. I believe that was in turn number 4.
He's definitely cutting the grass every entry and every exit, isn't he? I mean, he's really taking advantage of the curbing and every bit of racetrack. I mean, this is the third different shot that we've seen, Mark, where some sort of tire is hanging off the edge of the racetrack.
Well, it's interesting to note, too, as you suggest, there are a couple of places that if you get across that curbing, the grass is actually higher than the curbing, and that you're going to notice that in a hurry if you don't catch it just right.
That's exactly right. He's doing it at the right place. There's no question about it, where the curbing is just a bit higher than the grass, so his tires are over it, but it's not losing traction. But, there's some areas that he's got to be careful, because we've seen it before, especially down getting to turn 2, 3, 4, that area. You could definitely get that once you go off there, you can lose some good traction. But so far, so good. P1, and he's pulling the pits.
Well, I know that, for instance, we were at Barber Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago. Off of turn 1, the momentum carries you very, very wide, and the right side's there. They've added a concrete patch to kind of widen it up there. But drivers typically go across that patch and stay on it long enough that you typically see a lot of dirt and dust going up there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, showing Elio one more time, interviewing him as well. But you're right. So every track's a little different. You gotta just know these drivers are all professionals. Their job is to find out, okay, what's the very fastest way around this racetrack? What line can I take? And where can I take advantage of things like that? I just watched Peterson come off that same corner where you see, him hanging the tires off. But Peterson, he's way below that line now. We see, looks like Pato and a few of them. They're definitely all using that racetrack up coming off turn 11.
A little under 14 minutes left in the session. Palou, Rosenquist, Lundgaard, Armstrong, and Dixon, the top 5. Marcus Armstrong, Davey, the rookie, trying to find some pace.
Yeah, how about it? He's looking really good. There's a lot of laps earlier this morning. Seemed good. He didn't finish really high in the timing scoring chart earlier today, but right now looks like he's he was 11th in that number 11 car earlier. Right now he's looking at 4th, so he's a contender. I continue. He's kind of a sleeper. We don't talk a lot about him, right? He's kind of just, Ganassi has so many strong drivers, and I seen him in the driver intros the other day. Small guy, looks like he could be a horseshoe like he at the Kentucky Derby. Very quiet, but he has some speed, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in victory lane sometime either.
So back to Gasoline Alley and Ryan Marine.
And that's where we find Helio Castroneves out of your car. We saw it erupt in a plume of smoke. Did you have any warning?
No. Well, we actually had a run before. That's why I stopped. It was like, hey, I felt something, and we thought it was a overboost, as they call. And they seemed to fix it, and then went out there. It was not an overboost. So I guess it's a shame that that happened. We really made some good change from the morning to the afternoon. But the good news is I have my teammate Simon out there trying a lot of things, and hopefully we can copy some of this stuff.
And this is where it really turns into a team sport, because as you mentioned, you're going to be relying heavily on Simon plus your crew. They've got some work ahead of them. This is not an easy task.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. I mean, imagine the weekend. We started practicing today and qualifying today, obviously. There was so much going on, not enough time for engineers and drivers elaborate and make some tests. So, but it's the same for everyone, obviously. But when you have a situation like this, it's becoming very, very tight.
Well, happy belated birthday. Not exactly the way you expected this day to go. Hopefully things get turned around and we see you in qualifying.
In the end of the day, this is not bad, because imagine if that would have happened during the race. So I always see the right side, and also the one that we wanted is the Indy 500, so that's what we're looking for.
Helio Castroneves still has a smile on his face, just turned 48 years young on Wednesday, but that crew does have a big task ahead of them to get that AutoNation Honda ready to go for qualifying this afternoon.
So 4's not good enough, Davey. He wants 5. I think he's being selfish now.
Well, I agree. You know what I mean? Guy, I'd have one would be great, obviously, and what a way! That fourth one, I'll never forget your call coming down with that fourth win. Pretty amazing that he joined that 4-time winners club, and man, he earned it, and you know what? He made it fun for everybody. He ran the whole length of this straightaway, I think, and climbed fences, and how can you not be happy for the guy? But I do think this. As hard as it is to win any Indy 500 and being able to win 4 of them and being the first-time 5-time winner, it can happen, but I think odds are against him a little bit. I just don't think that that team right now is where they were in a strong enough area to really pull it off. But how can you not cheer him on? And, if I'm Elio, you got to think positive or you're not going to win.
Well, if he's in the top 10 on carb day and he pulls in 20 minutes early and hauls it back to the garage,
watch out.
Yeah, because that's kind of what he did.
Yeah.
He told the guys that, he pulled in early, took it back to gasoline alley. They said, what changed? He goes, don't touch it. You can wipe it off. Other than that, just leave it alone. And I might add, too, and I've referenced this before, everybody handles adversity differently. Yeah, but I have the utmost respect for a guy who obviously is struggling today.
Yeah.
A 4-time champion of the 500, and he takes it all, the good and the bad, with a smile on his face and makes himself accessible.
Well, one thing is that he has nothing to prove, right? I mean, he's done it in the career. He's had an absolutely outstanding career. So no matter if he wins another race or he doesn't win another race, he's had just outstanding. What a great guy! He's a TV personality. He's won Dance with the Stars. He's done so many things. Good on him, and well deserved. He's a well likable guy. And one thing that really, how a guy, when you have emotion, remember he crashed coming off the warm-up lane when they resealed the warm-up lane. And it was really slick, and he had the open test, and he crashed a car. And his biggest thing was, that's a car I won Indy.
That's right.
That was, really, it was almost like a family member that he hurt, and it was none of his doing because a lot of cars were spinning, if you recall. That was very unfortunate what went on there. Nobody's fault. It just happened. But anyways, I said, I go, you know what? He has a passion for everything. That race car, the people around him, his fans, and I hate when he lost the ride with Penske and he wasn't here. I was one of the first to say, man, we need Elio back. I mean, I just think he's a personality that.
Well, we've shared with people that, folks, he doesn't turn it on for the camera.
I
mean, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I mean, that's him. That's the way he is.
Yeah, and I'm obviously a retired IndyCar driver, and so some of these drivers, they don't have too much time for you. Some do, but Elio, he's going to stop. He's going to talk, and a lot of guys do. Don't get me wrong. He's not the only guy, but he really appreciates the people that are around him. He appreciates what he's doing, and he's just happy to be here.
Well, you always made time for me when I was young.
Yeah, good.
Pato Award is B1. Alex Below. That was a long time ago.
You got to remind me.
Long time ago.
Yes, it was. But we're still here, Mark.
You look the same, though, and look at me. Pato Award, Alex Below, Felix Rosenquist, Christian Lundgaard, Armstrong, Dixon, McLaughlin, Harvey, Herta, Ericsson, the top 10. Rossi, VK, Power, Ray Hall, and Daly, 315. Newgarden, Malukas, Eilot, Rob, DeFrancesco, 20th. Kyle Kirkwood continues struggling with mechanical gremlins. He's 21st, now slips to 22nd quick as his teammate leapfrogged over him. Roman Grosjean, he started strong in that first session this morning. It's just that time, as we talked about, Davey, that things have gone well through the first 4 races for Andretti Autosport, and it has not been a memorable start to this weekend.
No, it hasn't. Let me tell you about Grosjean, though. We talked about the consistency. He's always being fast. One thing that we showed this morning, as you just talked about, when it was time for these drivers to get out and get going, he went to P1 immediately. I mean, his driving's there. He got the most out of the car right off the bat. Unfortunately, the car just didn't have enough to stay in the P1. But he's got to appreciate a guy that's able to hop in that car, get out, and right off the bat go to the top. As Pato Award shoots back to the top of the charts, who ended the first practice session. Looks like he's going to be a threat for this pole mark after he's P1 right now. He ended P1 in the first session. We'll see if he can hold that up.
I think he's leading a rather charmed existence. I mean, his popularity continues to grow nationally and certainly internationally.
Yeah.
And I think without a doubt he is poised to be the next big deal in the NTT Indy.
Yeah, and if he's not already, if you watch 100 Days to Indy, he was featured in the second episode. And one thing I liked, it was in his home country of Mexico, and he had one of his buddies going, you have to come to the Indy 500. And it told me right there, Pato O'Ward knows what the Indy 500 means to everybody, from a driver to a fan to people who won it and people who have not won it. And he goes, it's Mecca. It's Mecca. This is the Mecca of auto racing. You have to come to the Indy 500. You never see anything like this. This is it's the biggest sporting event in the world, and he really understands that. As Lundgaard in that rail car jumps by him right now into P1.
And Armstrong is currently third quick.
Wow, look at that. Ahead of Palou, a teammate as well. So Armstrong, he didn't take him long to figure this racetrack out, did it?
Chip's doing okay with all his cars in the top 10.
Chip likes winners, and we like Chip. Talk about another team that's done a lot for the sport, given a lot of opportunity, to be honest with you. He was part of my start of the IndyCar career if it wasn't for him, but don't know if it would have happened. So more than likely not would have happened, to be honest with you. So Chip gives drivers opportunities as well, and you love to see right now he's giving this Armstrong a chance, and it seems to be paying off.
There are people who have had a lot of success in motorsports and all forms of motorsports who weren't necessarily drivers. However, there have been many, many people who have been very successful in motorsports who are former drivers who became owners. And what do you think is the key to that?
Well, I listened to Chip. I've known him a long time, but I learned more about Chip on the Dale Jr. download, to be honest with you. Really kind of got behind the scenes of him a little bit, and he continues to say, yeah, I had a passion for it. I live and breathe racing, and I decided to get out of the race car and wanted to be an owner, and I didn't change my attitude, but the biggest thing was he surrounded himself with good people, and I think that's everything, whether it's Roger Penske, or whether it's Michael Andretti. When you surround yourself with good people, that's what makes you successful, whatever position that you're in. And I think Chip really, he leaned on that a lot in that interview, and I learned that, and the appreciation and how hard it really is, and learned a lot from Chip on that side. Known him for as many years as I have, and we always talk, but you never bring up those kind of things. So I was happy to hear some of that. And, it's kind of an incentive for people that want to be car owners, which I was at one time, and you never rule that out. It's just an expensive sport.
Maybe not in IndyCar, but I believe every owner in this paddock has driven competitively in one form.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone, even from AJ Foyt, Michael, they're all 500 winners or champions or all the above, and obviously Chip, he was able to drive. Bobby Rahal won the Indy 500. Roger Penske drove. Del Coyne. Everybody's been in a car, I think, that's on these cars. I don't know about Shank, not sure on him. And
yeah, he drove.
Oh, did he? Okay, there you go. Yes.
The early days of the
that's
IRL,
right.
yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. And a lot of former drivers turn owners, and Sam Schmidt, a former driver as well, who I was partnered with for a few years in IndyCar. That what a great job he's been able to do and have a lot of success in the ownership side.
Him and Jim Guthrie, the Blueprint boys, they were an interesting bunch.
They were an interesting bunch. You
and
can
we'll
say
leave
that.
it at that.
Yeah. And speaking of Jim Guthrie, I seen his name the other day running some vintage stuff in the SVRA. So it looks like he's back behind the wheel.
Boy, what a story it was when he went to Phoenix that year. Tony Stewart and all of them.
Yeah, me. And we're still going, how did that even happen? Where did he come from? Like, how did that happen? But, it was back to strategies back then that we obviously played a part of racing, but not as big as it does now, and he just hit it right.
So Marcus Armstrong continues to hit it right. He is currently fourth quick, the likable rookie that a lot of people think could be around the series for a long time.
Yeah, I feel that. We'll see. Obviously time tells everything, but I think as a rookie right now, pretty darn impressive. Looks like if he wants to stay here, I think he has a really good opportunity to stay here. But, you look at all these cars. We got 27 cars on track right now, and then, we have 34 entered for the 500. And you go down through them, and I'm not going to name any names, but there's like three guys I could say, they're not going to win. But I can't say that about the rest of them. There's 3 or 4 guys that, whether it's the driving or the team or the combination, that I feel like, okay, but that's how good it is. That's how good this racing is.
We've been in situations, though, that on a very rare occasion over my years in this, where maybe someone that would typically be in that category that you just mentioned, you would say, I don't know that they have a shot. And boy, depending how the pit strategy and the cautions fall, all of a sudden they find themselves in victory lane.
Yeah, and we've seen that, right? We've seen some drivers is like they don't have a chance, but all of a sudden they're winning, and so you never can't count anybody out. That's for sure. There's no question about even the 4 or so I have on here that I don't think has a shot of winning. You never know; they could get it done.
Well, as we've said, that is the level of competitiveness that we have in this series, and that is why I think such an emphasis is now even more so placed on qualifying. And as we said, once upon a time, the goal was to get into the round of 12, but now I think that they've taken that a step further and feel like that they certainly want to be in the Firestone Fast 6 to make race day planning a little easier in terms of your strategy. Just a little over a minute left in this session. Alex Palou is P1 at a time of 110.460. Christian Lundgaard at 116.311. We should say, check that, 110.258. My apologies. The Pato Award is third quick. Armstrong, Harvey, Newgarden through 6th. 7th is Power. 8th is Dixon. 9th is Ericsson. 10th is Alexander Rossi. Then Rosenquist, McLaughlin, Kirkwood, Ray Hall, and Colton Herta through 15th. Pagano is 16th, Ilott 17th, BK 18th, Grosjean is 19th, Daly is 20th, Malukas 21st, DeFrancesco is 22nd, Robb is 23rd, Canapino 24th, Ferrucci 25th, Benjamin Peterson 26th. Elio Castroneves only turned 6 laps in this session. They have some work to do in order for him to get to go qualifying a little bit later on today, which, by the way, complete coverage of knockout qualifying on the Firestone Fast 6 comes your way at 4 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. So with about 10 seconds remaining, Davey, some of these guys, especially in the top half of this field, pretty content with what they've accomplished.
Yeah.
They pulled it in about a minute or so.
Yeah, that's right. We see Palou out of his car, Lundgaard out of his car, already just ready. Or I'm sorry, that's Harvey. I'm sorry, it was Harvey getting out of his car. So a lot of confidence. He ended up in the 5th position. And, you look at the top 12 right now, all well deserved to be there. But you look at 13th, Kirkwood, Ray Hall 14th. You got Herta. How about Colton Herta in that 15th spot? We know that he could be in the Fast 12. Grosjean started off quick in that 19th position. Malukas, a lot of these drivers expected to be in that top 12, but who's going to make it?
So Davey, you give it a shot. Who do you think is going to be on pole today?
Well, right now, I tell you, I think I'm going to go with the orange cards. I think Pato Award has a little something, and hard to go against the 2 that are on top right now. But I think Pato Award is going to give that little bit of extra effort and put that Chevrolet on top.
Well, it's interesting. Earlier today, the results of session number 1. Your top 10: Award, Lundgaard, Palou, McLaughlin, Harvey, Rosenquist, Ericsson, Dixon, Power, and Renus VK. And for the most part, while the order is a little different, Davey, the top 10 is essentially the same.
Yeah, it sure is. And so we know they're up there. I just think there's a few sleepers that may still happen. And another thing is, they're there now, but they got to go do it again on some red tires. They're going to be a little bit faster, make sure the balance is right. And we've seen some favorites to be in that top 12. And for example, Will Power, he's been up and down in qualifying, our all-time points leader, pole winner, right now is in that 8th position. He looks solid for the top 12, but he's going to get a pole. Who knows?
Marcus Ericsson, 10th quick after this session, Ryan Marine.
Yes, so let's see what he thinks about that. 10th fastest, Marcus, in that session. How do you feel about your car for the race and then especially for qualifying later today?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I think we made some improvement from last year on this track. It hasn't been our strongest track, but I feel like us as a team, we've taken some steps in the right direction. I think all 4 cars are in the top 10, so that's a good sign. So, yeah, I think we've had 2 productive sessions. Let's see now with the weather if it stays dry or if the rain comes.
What would you prefer?
I don't know. I think, we haven't had much rain running the last few years, and last time here I finished 4th in the rain, so that was really fun. So I wouldn't mind a bit of rain, but I'll take whatever.
I just saw a member of the Old Timers come up and give you something. What was that?
It was a coin with my face on. So yeah, that was very, very cool, very cool.
Another sign of how life has changed in the last year or so for Marcus Ericsson. Mark.
Let's go to Rob Blackman.
Yeah, from one Marcus to another. How about the rookie Marcus Armstrong, 4th fastest here in the afternoon session after being 11th fastest this morning. You seem to have a good, solid race car underneath you right now.
Yeah, the car feels extremely good. I feel like I'm sort of learning the track a wee bit. Obviously, I've never raced on most of these American circuits before, so I'm just sort of, been thrown into the deep end, so to speak, just trying to learn tracks, and I think now I'm starting to get to grips with this one especially, and hopefully we can continue this form.
Well, you seem to be a fast learner after what we've seen today, and the fact you were 8th at Long Beach in your first opportunity there. What is it about your ability to learn tracks quickly, because you are coming along? And look, we understand you're with a veteran team in Chip Ganassi Racing, but certainly your learning curve is it's a fast one.
Well, the boys are doing a phenomenal job of sort of keeping me in the best mind space possible to just try and get sort of on the form straight away, and that's a real help. I've got 3 really quick teammates to learn from, so I think that's another big factor.
Good luck later in qualifying. Thank you.
you.
That's the 22-year-old from New Zealand, Marcus Armstrong.
Again, Pillow, Lundgaard, Award, Armstrong, and Harvey, your top 5. Don't forget, 4 o'clock Eastern this afternoon, we'll go qualifying for the NTT IndyCar Series for tomorrow's race. 2:20, just a few minutes from now, we'll go Indy next qualifying. For Rob Blackman and Ryan Marine and Davey Hamilton, our driver analyst, this is Mark James. So long for now for the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
To the team as well for providing us with the commentary across the 2 practice sessions in the IndyCar radio network. So not a bad session overall as well. There's a lot of action to look forward to. We are back on air 9 p.m. British summertime for all of the action from the qualifying running order as well on a road course. Going to be mighty exciting, so do join us for that as well later on this evening in around about 2 hours time. Go get some rest and join us again for when IndyCar returns. Bye for now.